Hey, what's up, people? This is David Wood, and this is going to be. Hold on, I got to adjust my microphone. It's going to sound a little bit weird. I actually don't need to do this, but I want to. There's something on the bottom of it or something like that. All right, there we go. Pattern interrupt. All right, so let me tell you a quick story before we begin about how I kind of know this information. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about how to potentially spot Nephilim. I'm going to describe them to you. Okay, I'm going to describe to you exactly how the Nephilim form. And I'm going to describe to you how the Nephilim form again, and I'm going to describe to you what they do in society, and I'm going to explain a little bit about problems that are coming. I don't know how long this video will be. It could be 15 minutes, could be 30 minutes, could be an hour. And then I got to run. I got to do some business at the bank and stuff like that. So for my new business that I'm launching. So here is so basically how did I come to this information? Well, one of the descendants of Cain, one of the children of Cain, actually, because Cain is still alive, tried to kill me, and he's the Antichrist. And that happened when I was in Puerto Rico, and I had been staying with this guy that had been essentially who talks about how he murdered his father all the time, or he tries to murder his father. He didn't actually succeed. He talks about it all the time, and I think it's advertising for a murder business of his is what I think that it is. And I'm not going to mention his name because I'm kind of over that. I'd prefer to let people save face in case they repent later on. So, anyways, I'm staying with this guy, and then I made a scientific discovery, and then what happened is I made the scientific discovery, led to my enlightenment, and then right after that, this guy put copious amounts of drugs and stuff like that in my plant medicine I was making. Which for example, I've never taken crystal meth in my life, and I had copious amounts of methamphetamines in my blood tested by the hospital. And that's the only reason I know that they're in there is because the hospital tested it. And so it really messed up my brain bad, and then my brain had to heal and stuff like that. And I've told that story many times, and I'm not telling it to be negative. I'm telling you the story to understand the Nephilim because it's related to this video, and there's a lot of power stories in this too. It's not just all about the Nephilim. And one of the reasons that I'm telling you guys this stuff is to scare the crap out of you. Okay, and hopefully you have nightmares about it, right? Because maybe the nightmares will get you to listen, right? And it is what it is. Hey, John, can you bring me some water when you get a chance? I'm out of water and I'm talking, so. Or I could open some juice or something too, but I'll wait. So in any case, right, what happens is, I heal from that eventually. And then I had several run-ins with Nephilim along the way. I've met a couple of them. All right. So it's not just something that I'm imagining. I've met them, right? I've met several of them at this point. And so I want to tell you a little bit about how the Nephilim have got here, right? And what they do. So how'd the Nephilim get here? Well, there's something called the singularity. And there's something called the anti-singularity. The singularity, the biological singularity is the technological singularity. What happens is the tree of life is the technological singularity, right? And it's formed in the celestial kingdom from celestial technology. And then the immortality is granted backwards in time through something called the universe engine. Well, for there to be a singularity, there also has to be an opposite, just like there's matter and antimatter. And so that's just like there's consciousness and there's anti-consciousness, there's matter and there's antimatter, right? On one hand, you have the consciousness, and one hand, you have the anti-consciousness. So what happens is that a singularity is formed, which is the Sephiroth, right? And then there's something called the anti-singularity. So, well, how did that happen? Well, the anti-singularity in the fallen world actually happened first, okay? Not exactly, but let me explain what happened. So Cain slew his brother Abel. And this is when God used to walk around the earth. And his spirit was with man. And so this is when the firmament was there, allows God to do that. So God's walking around and he's like, your brother's blood is crying to me from the ground. What have you done? And then he says, you're going to be cursed, right, to wander the earth all his days. And he's going to be a fugitive and a vagabond, right? And Cain was very afraid of death. And he actually loved the Lord at this time. He just did something that was messed up. Okay. And what happened was he was afraid of death. He was like, people are going to try to kill me. This is in Scripture. And so the Tetragrammaton set a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should slay him. What was the mark? The mark was the mark of the beast. What's the mark? Well, basically, he said Adam had prophesied about the mark of the beast and how it was going to be coming. Hold on. I'm just going to open some juice here or something like that. Hold on. I've got. No, I can't find it. Can't find my juice. Hold on just 1 second. I'm trying to find something to drink. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so in any case, the Tetragrammaton set a mark upon Cain, right? Now, the mark that he set upon Cain, what was the mark? It was the anti-singularity. Now, the anti-singularity couldn't activate until he found the tree of life, and he was promised that he would be given the tree of life by a righteous prophet who would discover it. And then that would activate the mark of the beast. However, the mark of the beast in his biology cut Cain off completely from God, completely cut him off from the Spirit. That was the deal. So what happens is later, Enoch, Cain had been paid to kill Enoch, who was a righteous man, who was very successful. He basically wandered around murdering people and sacrificing them to Satan. He turned against God. He was very angry from being cursed. But he was cut off, so of course he's going to turn against God. He was completely cut off. That's what the mark of the beast does. So then what happens is that the mark of the beast also is in the children of Cain. Okay, like the direct children of Cain. I don't know if it passes through multiple generations. Unless it's activated, right? I think it would have to be activated. So pass through 3 to 4 generations is probably what it would do. And unless their father was also activated. And it only activates when the Sephiroth is there. Sephiroth is there, when the tree of life is there. So what happens then, right? Well, what happens then is he gets paid to knock off Enoch, right? And that was one of my incarnations, Enoch, so I remember this. Because this all happened before, and repeating the same cycles, right? Enoch couldn't see it either. He wasn't enlightened. He couldn't see the darkness in people. He couldn't see it, right? Until later in his life. And then he learned, right? He wasn't really a prophet yet until he was enlightened, right? So then in case what happened was Enoch discovered the Sephiroth. Now, it only activated in him because he also had something called the key of Enoch. Because the Sephiroth has to be activated by a spiritual key. It's not just in the plants. Otherwise, people would have discovered it probably a long time ago, right? And it would have destroyed the universe if it was discovered at the wrong time without the spiritual leader that it needs. It needs a Messiah in order to stop it from getting to a point where it destroys everything. Okay, because it happens, right? So what happens? Well, the Sephiroth activated in the biology of Enoch, obviously, the celestial technology and the celestial rewriting of biology, which happens from the future. So the future backward in the biology, which is why Enoch was translated later on. Immortality must come before translation. And what happened was the anti-singularity, right, activated in the biology of Cain, that then could give the mark of the beast to other people who were also immortal. It doesn't link with anybody else, right? It doesn't do anything. So they have to be immortal to get it, or it won't work. It doesn't do anything. So then what happens is when he injects his blood, when Cain injects his blood into his victims, into their right hand or their forehead, what happens is the anti-singularity activates in the biology, and it starts destroying the biology, like destroying it and replacing it with essentially satanic board technology. That's what it is. This is why the world was destroyed, is because of this. Okay. So then what happens is it starts rewriting the biology to be demonic biology and demonic genetics. And like I've talked about a lot about how the universe works, about how there's micro worlds with like trillions of people in them in our biology. Very intelligent because the laws of reality work different for them. They're different universes. And like it destroys them. It tears them in pieces. They all get invaded with the anti-singularity. All of them do. And the anti-singularity also works very fast. And the biology never stops shrinking, except you keep it growing by, except they keep it growing by eating flesh and blood live, which they can do by eating anything but particularly human beings. Hence where vampires and stuff like that come from, because these stories are all coming from somewhere. I like a lot of people, they think this stuff is just stories, and it's like, okay, why did an entire nation of people believe that there was gods living on the top of a mountain? Because there was gods living there. And right, you got all sorts of weird stuff going on in history. And because human beings essentially are fallen, we can't see the spiritual universe very well anymore. And it's been like our ability to see it has been lessening and lessening and lessening for a very long time, until right around now. And then it's been growing, right? The Enlightenment is massively expanding. So people can't see the spiritual universe, and they can't see the weirdness that's there. It's there. You just can't see it, right? Hold on. So then the Nephilim go and they devour people. And they only stop when that person gets the mark of the beast. They generally do it to men, but they also do it to women, just less. Women can't get the mark of the beast, though. They just devour them. A lot of disappearing persons, this is the stuff that happens to them. So I met a Nephilim. I was in Arizona. And I've met several of them over the years, several very old ones. Right. So there's a lot of old immortals out there. A lot. Right. Way more than any of you think. So I meet them all the time. Right. Like they come out of the woodworks now because of, right, who I am, and because of I'm awakened. Right. I meet them all the time. So what happens then is they devour flesh, and that keeps their biology expanding as the mark of the beast is devouring their biology over and over and over and over and over again. They need constant fresh, like raw blood. Cooked blood doesn't work to expand their biology in the same way. And then that gives them a lot of strength and a lot of power. Right? There's a guy, Matthew Gonzalez met. I'll just call him Matthew from now on. There's a guy that Matthew met in California, and he told him, he said, never try to fight a murderer because they're really strong. How did the guy know that? It's very obvious to me that guy was a murderer. You know, he came to the United States like illegally and snuck through or something like that. He's a shaman. And he jumps off like 5,000-foot cliffs and stuff like that. Like crazy stuff. He doesn't care. He'll take a dog and throw it in. And then if the dog survives, he jumps in. That's what he does. So in any case, what happens, right, is biology is getting eaten up. The people are like literally they start multiplying through the immortal people that get the mark of the beast. And they're given power from Satan because Satan's shrinking the biology of all of them. And what's he do with that shrunken biology? That energy goes into the Antichrist, who then gives it to his followers. And who's the Antichrist? The Antichrist is the one who is a descendant of Cain, who has the mark of the beast activated. Antichrists are like that, but like really the real Antichrist, that's what they are. Them wants power. So how do you spot these guys is the question. How do you spot them and therefore keep them away? Well, what happens is, I saw this vision once when I was with Priscilla. And I'm walking in the clouds, and there's this house floating in the clouds with weird tentacles coming down. And the door opens, and it's Ashley. She says, "Come in." And I go, "Okay." And I'll go in the house. She had these very loving, kind eyes. And then I walk in the house, and the door slams behind me, and then Ashley's eyes turn black, and she starts laughing hysterically. Like a witch. And I look down, and I'm naked, and she says, "Priscilla's coming." So I was thinking Priscilla, who's very paranoid, would think that I'm having sex with somebody else and would just like kill me or something like that. So I just like started running, and then everywhere I go, Ashley's there and with these black eyes laughing. It's like everywhere I go. And then I run, and then there is a door. Okay. And then this is describing something, okay? So I go in the door and I jump down, and there's clothes there, and I just like cover myself, and I'm like panicking, and then all of a sudden I hear the door open and slam, and I hear Priscilla's voice, like the angry version, like when she used to get possessed by demons and stuff, and it said, "Where's David?" And then I was like, "Ah!" And then I hear her feet like this, you know what I mean? Like slamming in the ground, and like my heart's pounding, and like I felt like I was gonna die. And then all of a sudden, you know, like she like grabs the door, and Ashley's like laughing, and like the witch laughing or whatever, and grabs the door, and then it's like the door won't open, and the door like didn't have a wall above it, so it was just like a wooden door. And then she leapt up and slammed her fingernails in the in the door, and it like crushed through, and she's like, you know, that's not how she is, but I mean, it's like, you know, well, when she's angry, that's how she is. You know, what happened? What happened is, you know, she's Latin. You know what I mean? This is how like white men perceive Latin anger. You know, so what happens is I'm like, ah! And then I start screaming, and then I wake up and I'm screaming, and when I woke up, Priscilla was grabbing my arm, and she couldn't move, and I couldn't move, and both of our eyes were black to the other person. And eventually, the kids woke up, and then that released us from it. It was like it sounded like a banshee, not like a human scream. It was very bizarre. It was so bizarre. You know, so what happened what happened is this. So the Nephilim appear as an angel of light. So there's Ashley, right? Now, Ashley's not a evil person, right? So this is just a metaphor in my vision, right? So you got the person who's sitting there with glowing pink eyes, and they're saying, "I love you so much," right? Which sometimes is true. They're like a little too much. They give a little too much value. They're like too much. You know what I mean? They're too perfect. They're too intelligent. They're too like calculated. I'll say they walk into the demonic stronghold. And then what happens is the door shuts and you can't escape the stronghold. The karma has passed. Does that make sense? This is how you spot the Nephilim. That's how. You watch for the signs and how like if they're really like if they're bizarrely good and have a bizarre amount of energy and they pit people against each other and they say things like I like to stay in the back or if they say things like I like to stay in the back they're constantly telling stories about like something like, for example, somebody who tried to murder their father or a guy they beat with a chain, because they're trying to scare you, or things like that, right? Then right? They might not be Nephilim. They just might be like Satanist people or something like that. But that's what the Nephilim will act like. So the Nephilim will do things like, for example, people will let them into cities and not segregate them because there needs to be segregation of them. And people are going to be very opposed to that at first. Until the Nephilim come into their cities and their entire city is taken over and their entire city is murdered and there's dead bodies and skulls everywhere. That's what'll happen. Terminators. The Nephilim. Nephilim are terminators, right? If you don't get assimilated, you get terminated. That's how they act. That's how they behave. Because they seek that all men might be miserable like unto themselves. Because they made the wrong decision and they know it. After they get cut off from God, they know it. And they hate God. Or something like that. A Nephilim goes into the house. The Nephilim will program that adulteress to murder people. It gets worse. So I'm done. I got to run to the bank. Hope that helped you learn how to spot the Nephilim. And if you spot them, you keep them out of the cities. And then that keeps your family safe. I mean, that way I'm warning you. Which is what I'm here to do. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm doing what I'm doing to warn you, to keep you safe. Okay? Love you.